Lil Durk has once again been denied bail, this time following the shocking reinstatement of his execution penalty, making it the third time the Chicago rapper has been left behind bars with no reprieve, despite believing he had the upper hand after his sentence was temporarily revoked. Let's make one thing clear before we dive in. This isn't a rap beef. This isn't a headline built off a bar. This is real life, and it's spiraling fast with one of hip-hop's most influential, respected, and controversial voices. Lil Durk, born Durk Derrick Banks, now finds himself at the most critical moment of his life, locked up, denied bail 3 times, and staring down the barrel of a legal situation so intense that even his most loyal fans are struggling to believe what's happening. We're talking about a rapper who just last year was dropping hits with J. Cole, Drake, and Future, chart-topping records, festival appearances, and a seemingly unstoppable empire, with OTF running like a machine. But behind the scenes, a storm was brewing. One tied not to music, but to a past that refuses to let go. And now, it's exploded in the worst possible way. Let's rewind. It all began when Durk was suddenly taken into federal custody earlier this year under sealed indictment charges that the public still doesn't fully know the scope of. What was known, however, sent shockwaves. Prosecutors announced that they were pursuing capital punishment. Yes, the death penalty against Durk. It sounded surreal. A rapper known for his emotional transparency, drill anthems, and fatherhood messages now facing the most final sentence in America's justice system. The details are murky. There's speculation that charges stem from federal racketeering, possible connection to retaliatory shootings tied to ongoing gang investigations, and a sweeping campaign to crack down on what the government calls violent cultural influencers. But nothing prepared the world for the moment a judge actually accepted the prosecution's recommendation. Lil Durk was officially facing execution. At that point, panic spread across the culture. Fans cried foul. Attorneys launched into overdrive. Celebrities from Meek Mill to even unlikely voices like Kim Kardashian began calling for clarity and fairness in Durk's trial. The hip-hop world couldn't believe it. Execution? For Lil Durk? Even with his history, this felt excessive, unprecedented even. Then, for a moment, the skies seemed to clear. Just weeks ago, in a dramatic twist, Durk's legal team managed to get the execution penalty revoked. The judge agreed that there was enough ambiguity in the charges, enough question in procedural filing to warrant a review. The public erupted in cautious relief. It seemed like the light at the end of the tunnel. That's when Durk's lawyers made their next bold move. They filed for bail. According to insiders, the team felt confident, with the execution penalty temporarily off the table and Durk's behavior in custody labeled as exemplary. They believed they could secure a conditional release. Reports say the bail request was set at $3 million in assets, cash and property, plus house arrest, ankle monitor, and a 24/7 armed private security team at his expense. Everything was ready. The motion was filed. The arguments were made. And then denied. The courtroom fell silent as the judge slammed the request, citing flight risk, community influence, and potential witness tampering. It was the second official denial. And yet, Durk's team didn't give up. They filed again this time, adding more restrictions, more promises, even pledging that Durk would refrain from any public statements or music until trial. But the third time, it hit different. Another stone cold denied. This time, the judge's ruling carried even sharper words. The defendant remains a symbol of organized influence. His release may compromise public safety. Bail is not granted. Boom. Just like that, hope was shattered. Lil Durk, sitting in a federal holding facility, had his face buried in his hands, according to sources in the room. The man who once stood at the BET Awards with tears in his eyes, honoring fallen friends and pleading for peace, now sat with nothing but walls and silence around him. So, how did we get here? The truth is, Lil Durk's rise has always been entangled with the streets. Born and raised in Chicago's South Side, he grew up in the heart of drill culture. Pain, death, betrayal. Those weren't just lyrics. They were his reality. He lost friends, brothers, even his own blood to gun violence and the system. His artistry became a reflection of that pain. But as he rose to stardom, the spotlight didn't just bring fame. It brought heat. Law enforcement has long targeted drill rappers, especially those from Chicago, as more than just musicians. To them, they're messengers of menace. And Durk, as one of the movement's torchbearers, became the #1 name on a growing list of federal scrutiny. His past arrests, weapon charges, that infamous 2019 shooting case in Atlanta, all began stacking up as prosecutors built a profile. And while many of those cases were dismissed or reduced, the shadow never left him. Now, with this federal case sealed tighter than Fort Knox, no one knows the full extent of the evidence. But insiders say there's surveillance footage, digital messages, and possible informants involved. If even half of what's rumored is true, Durk could be facing not just decades, but life, or worse. But fans aren't having it. To them, this is a witch hunt. A targeted takedown of a successful black man who beat the odds and used his pain to uplift. They point out the timing, the sealed files, the media silence. Why are the details hidden? Why the push for death? Why is a man with no active violent record suddenly too dangerous for bail? Durk's team believes it's political, that the government is trying to make an example out of him. To say, no matter how rich, how famous, how influential you become, if you come from that life, you'll never truly escape it. And now, they're preparing for the biggest legal battle of Durk's